Hey, welcome everybody. This is Armchair Safari, where we learn from design I find on the internet. We're going to have a look at a piece of design that I found, and we're going to go through what is good about it, what is bad about it, and if it's a viable functional design. But you know that feeling when you just sort of you just took on too much. You're like, this is not going to go well. You're like it's just not going to end well because you're trying to do too much. That's today's episode. Okay, so today we're looking at Claudio. I'm not going to be able to pronounce this, but Claudio Guglieri, sort of. I'm pronouncing it slightly more Italian, probably, and it's Spanish, so you probably won't like that. But we're looking at Claudio's personal site. Claudio is the head of design for Opal Camera, so you know this is going to be well designed. But just starting out with like a first impression of this guy is incredibly good at a lot of very difficult things. So it's going to be this is going to be quite the challenge to learn from. We're going to have to like focus in on something specific and try to learn from that, because otherwise it's just going to be massively overwhelming. But all right, so let's just jump in and click around a little bit. Up here we have a carousel where we can walk through some of his projects. We have some really cool mouse effects and some really cool text effects. And over here, we have a little slide over effect to email him. We also have this recurring theme with the arrow. Also, the white, black, and yellow is a recurring theme. And down here we have, I'm not really sure what this is. This is just some like really nice effect on the footer. Some links over here, and then if we just click through this is an archive of everything that he has shared for inspiration, which is a lot, so we're not going to go through all of that. We have a bit of an about page. I love the effect that the text comes out like this. It's all really, really well made, and Claudio has a lot of relevant experience. There's also some really interesting deep dives on product work he's been doing here. And of course, since he's quite a well-known designer, some talks that he's been doing for the last decade. Some talks, it's quite a lot of talks. And also some press features, and I'm sure there's a ton else here that I'm just not finding. All right, so let's go back to the start and start from the beginning. Damn, there's so much stuff here. Let's start with the good. What is good about this? Okay, so that text effect, let's just start with this text effect right here. Look at that. This is the difference, what's called the blend mode difference. And I've rarely seen it used to a good effect, but here he's consistently reusing it, and it looks great because the elements that are blended are quite small. So we can always sort of see them and read them. But when you get into the funky colors, like here we have some weird purpley thing, you don't really see them that much. So it's a really nice effect. The typography is just excellent. It's super clean. It guides your eye really, really well. It's super easy to read, and you're never confused as to what you're looking at, ever, which is quite interesting. The reuse of the arrows are really nice. The font choice is a very interesting one as well, because he's going with this. It's almost like a block sans serif. There isn't such a thing, but it's because he's applying it this consistently, it sort of feels like there's block lettering happen, but there isn't. It's really well done. It's a really, really well balanced typography. And before we leave this page, I just want to say that normally I am not a big fan of taking over the mouse pointer. I think it's sort of blight on accessibility, and it's very rarely a good thing. Usually it's just very annoying. In this case, though, oh my God, this is well made. So this just makes it very, very easy for you as a visitor to realize that, this is a slider. I can click around here. But also, when you move it across the screen, it doesn't switch to a different glyph. It rotates the glyph with a nice little animation. Absolutely beautiful detail. And here's another one. If you scroll over this element down here, it turns into a mouse pointer again, so you know what you're doing with it. That is just really neat. And it's a beautiful mouse pointer as well, because this is also a custom mouse pointer. It's just reminiscent of the other one. It also doesn't interrupt any of the mouse pointer effects you might need, such as the pointer for clicking on things, or the cursor for highlighting text. Even though I couldn't highlight this text, so did find one error. Great. Yeah, this is just incredibly well made. Incredibly well made. Really, really nice. Oh, look at that, by the way. Look at the text effect. Let's scroll through this. The text, the slider doesn't actually slide. It just animates in and out. Or does it pop? It's actually popping. But the description text slides in, and so does the button text. Look at that. Not the button, but the button text changes. These are like some details on a really high level. Normally, you never have time to work on something to this quality level, so it speaks a lot to Claudio's insanity and experience. This is really nice, really, really nice. All right, yeah. So let's actually, you know what? Let's not even look at the feed. If you want to see Claudio's work and want to be inspired by some great design, head over to his site and look at the feed. I'm not going to look at this because this is just going to take way too long. Instead, I'm going to look at the talks because I think this is indicative of his general design of the site. So we have this really nice intro where there's a bunch of copy that is very, very clear on screen. It is highlighted to talk about what are the important words in the text. So even though the text is slightly long for a headline, that doesn't matter because you clearly see the punchy bits immediately. And then when you scroll down a little bit, you have a very, very clear table about what it like. These are the talks. This is what he was talking about. This is where it's held. This is when it happened. And again, the arrows, really love this. The fact that it's scrolling in and out in the same way as in the button on the first page, still reusing the colors, but applied in a completely different sort of layout. So there's a callback to this detail, but it's not reused. It's just a callback. So it's a consistency of the design language rather than actually reusing the component. Very, very nice. I don't even think that's the same glyph, is it? Maybe, probably. It's similar if it's not the same. But the reason I wanted to talk about this page, oh, look at how the menu pops up. That's nice. It's really nice. The menu is actually on top of the other text though, so this is a bit of a bug because this is very difficult to read. Anyway, the reason I wanted to talk about this page in particular is because when you're looking at a web page, it's incredibly important to remember that just because you are very used to your screen doesn't mean other people are using the same screen. In fact, there is no standard screen size, nowhere near a standard screen size. I think one of the biggest surveys I saw, or biggest data gathering things I saw, the most commonly used screen is about 1% of the total population. So the fragmentation is absolutely enormous, which means everything has to be fluid or responsive depending on like what flavor of wording you like. So if we pull this, actually, can you see this? Let me just see if this is streaming correctly. If I pull the window, do you see it? Let me move me aside a little bit, and yeah, you do. Perfect. Okay. So look at how Claudio did this. This is like, okay, so this is the footer of the page, and it's not a complicated one, so it's just scaling. It's fine. The text up top, it's just scaling. It's totally fine. This is a very simple part of a layout, so I would expect this to work really well. This, however, is the absolute total polar opposite of that. This is a really, really complicated layout. There's a bunch of text that is used as almost like a block, um, or like a bunch of blocks, and he's put in animated GIFs in the middle of those blocks, and it still needs to fit as a header to the thing, and then there's a table. The table isn't complicated itself, but tables aren't great for scaling. So how do these things scale? Well, based on what we've seen so far, you'd expect them to scale beautifully, wouldn't you? And you would be absolutely right. Look at this. That just totally works. So what he's done here is he's put all of this text, he's put it in line, and he's scaling the size of the text with the browser window size, or with the width of the browser window. So regardless of where you see this, if it's on a mobile phone or if it's on a gigantic screen, let's zoom out to something huge like this. Oh, actually here it does kind of break a little bit. It still looks fine, but it does break a little bit. I suspect most people who are on like huge widescreen monitors don't actually use them full screen though, so I guess it's probably going to be okay. But just how this interacts with small screens is beautiful. There's some really thoughtful idea. It's like he's clearly thought this through. How does this scale? Will this still work on all of these different screens? You kind of expect that from a guy with Claudio's experience, to be honest, but it's still really nice to see, and it's really well made. Also, look at the table. Again, tables usually quite complicated. This is not a complicated table, but still. So the header so the header is slowly shrinking, and the table just lost a column. See that? It just loses the least important information. Boom. And it just looks awesome. It looks awesome in any size of the screen. That's wonderful. I just saw something that's interesting though. Why is it called type? Year makes sense, title makes sense, but type does not make sense. This is not a type, this is a location. So that's actually, I can't believe I actually found an error with Claudio's site. Gotta change this header, Claudio. I'm really impressed. This is genuinely great. Okay, so these are some of the good things. There's a ton more we could talk about here that is really, really good. Let's look at some of the bad. So if we start with, actually, let's start with this side we're already on. This text is somewhat hard to read compared to this because the contrast here is super high. The white is a super high contrast. This animated thing is a super high contrast, which makes the darkened text a little bit hard to read. Now in the header, it makes total sense that the label is darkened and it's not that important. It's okay if you have to sort of squint, like what is this? Like, it's fine because you're gonna be able to understand just from the text what it is. But here, this is no longer the case. So this is actually, I suspect what's happened here is that he just chose one darkened color for everything, which is a really consistent and really nice way of doing it. It doesn't really work here, in my opinion. That's an opinion, though. It could go either way, right? So that's a single thing. Let's look at this. Oh my God, yeah. Oh, look at this. Oh, there's even a click effect. I didn't see that the first time. Look at that. The mouse pointer enlarges as I click. That's very nice. Very, very nice. This thing is probably heavy since there's a lot of video, there's a lot of animated things. So I suspect this is very, very heavy. Does it matter? No, probably not really, because you can still interact with it. It's not interrupting anyone, but it's probably still quite heavy. Don't understand this footer. Don't understand what it's for. It looks like it's just like another. When I was click this, oh yeah, I entered the feed. Yeah, I mean this just feels like actually next feed. Does it mean this is the next thing? If I reload, is there another thing? No. So I don't understand this. This feels a little bit weird. I mean, it looks great. So this is not a bug. It's just also doesn't really help in any way. My God, uh, yeah, yeah, this is wonderful. Okay, so bad things are not that many. This is a really, really well made, really polished design. All of the like tiny details to this are just excellent. How the text is, look at that. Look at how the text moves, like how the shading of the text moves here because of the blend mode. How all of these tiny elements sort of interact, how this arrow is reused in all sorts of settings. Um, yeah, the typography is super, super consistent. The color of the typography also super consistent to a fault, in my opinion. But that's just an opinion. Yeah, no, this is really good. The default, like the only things you could say about this that are bad would be, you find a tiny detail like the label I saw. If this was a design critique of a designer working for me, I would not find any flaws in this. Not because there aren't any, but because the polish of this is just so high that it no longer matters. It's just, this is wonderful work and it should be applauded. Um, so the third and most important thing is this viable design. Yes, of course it is. It's his personal site, right? It's very viable. It shows us what he's been working on, what he's working at now. Super, super interesting to follow. One thing that was a little bit weird when I looked into this, when I looked at this before I turned on the camera, just clicking through the pages, it looks a little bit like a portfolio, and I kind of wish there was something in here that was like his opinion on something. This is just a opinion on my part, right? So it's not something that I can feel the design on at all. This is wonderful, wonderful work. But it is one of those things where I look at this and I go like, I wonder what Claudio actually thinks about something. Is it in here? Can I click one of these and learn about it? I could like see him talk about something, maybe. Yeah. I could also click over to Twitter. Maybe he's posted something there. Yeah, this is just wonderful. So I think the things to take away from Claudio's site here is just to pick a couple of things that are what you think sort of exemplify what you're trying to build. Like in his case, he has used this very clear typography and is using this arrow. And then just reuse them and don't add too much stuff. Like let the material speak for itself and be very consistent in how you apply the design that you choose and try to remove as much else as possible because it's not really necessary. I mean, Claudio's site, link in the description, is a masterclass in that. And I think we can all like, I need to go look at my site now because yeah, yeah, I really need to rethink some of the stuff that I've done after seeing Claudio's site because this is absolutely, absolutely masterclass. So anyway, let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I'm being too kind to Claudio, or if there's anything else I should review. Catch you in the next one.